Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Desculpa, eu coloquei o errado, vou ter que colocar de novo. Não abre o seu, não. Vou fechar o meu aqui novamente. Hi, everyone. We're here today in a very, very special occasion to have a very special conversation with a very special person, a very dear friend of mine, Geraldo, that we call here in Brazil Geraldinho. We're here today to talk about our beloved Chico Xavier. In terms of kindness, what that actually meant to him, what he taught us in those terms. And we have a very special opportunity here because, as we know, Geraldo was friends with him. They were great friends. They have this long friendship for over 20 years. And so today we're going to hear from a person that actually saw Chico Xavier in action. So we're going to welcome him, Geraldo, here with us. Hi, my dear friend.
Hi, John Pedro. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here in Kardec Radio again, especially talking about Chico Xavier.
Yes. So the dynamic of this conversation will be questions and answers. Since we have a person that has so many stories and memories shared with Chico while Chico was incarnated on Earth. So no wasting of time. We're gonna start asking Geraldo a couple of questions here, and as soon as we're gonna start and through this conversation, we're gonna see what kindness meant to Chico Xavier. We hear loads of stories of people saying that the first time that they saw Chico, the first time that they went to the Spiritist Center in which Chico worked, they felt a very strong energy, a very powerful presence while looking at him, while seeing him. So the first question here is, what did you feel when you saw Chico for the very first time, even before you guys talked? Can you describe that feeling?
Oh, yes, I remember as it was tonight or today. It was 40 years ago, in the 14th of October, 1981, and I was anxious to meet him because, my mother's side of the family, they were from Pedro Leopoldo, the home city of Chico Xavier in Minas Gerais state. My grandmother was his fellow people at the school in Pedro Leopoldo. And so that I grew up hearing all the good things about him and how he was so special to my family, about his kindness, about his mediumship, about the messages that he received through psychographies, through other kinds of mediumship. And I was very longing to meet him. And when I was 14 years old, I received a book from him that was autographed by him. And from that time on, I began to write him some letters telling him how special he was for me and for the whole family, and I just signed as a friend. And I didn't expect to receive a letter back from him. And when I was 19 years old, so 5 years later, my grand aunt that lived in São Paulo invited me to her house, and she was going to work with Chico in the launch of two new books of his psychography in the Centro Espírita União, the Spirit Center Union in São Paulo. And then I flew to São Paulo, and I was very, very anxious to be with him and to hug him and to talk to him. But I was first invited to work, and we were there around 6 in the afternoon, preparing the place and everything. And my task was to open the books that all the books that he was going to autograph. And the place was full of people. I mean, thousands of people. And at 8 p.m., he was there, sharp, Chico Xavier. And I remember the feeling to see him was overwhelming. And I was so happy. And at the same time, I was very anxious and very, it was a feeling of heaven on earth. And what could I do? Because I was there to work. I couldn't, run to him and hug him and talk to him, because we were there to perform a task. So that I had to control my anxious and to focus on the task that I was given to. And because of that, I had to wait 11 hours and 30 minutes, because that was the time around the clock that this reunion took place and last in the night of the 14th to the 15th of October 1981. And I remember I thought thousands of people, maybe 10,000 people that, passed through me to have their books. And then I would give them the books. And Chico Xavier was standing around 3 meters in my right hand side. So he was very close, maybe 10 feet away. And then I had to wait all those times, all those hours. And around 7:30 in the morning of the 15th, then my great aunt Nair told me, Geraldinho, you now have the right to receive your salary, because you work hard for that time, for that matter. And let's go and let's hug Chico. And I was speechless completely, because she would introduce me to him, and before she spoke my name, Chico Xavier called me Geraldinho, but no one said my name to him. So I was astonished, and he was so kind. And then he talked to me and asked me that there were two things that he didn't understand about me. And I was frozen, what? I was, oh my goodness. And he just said, you wrote me so many beautiful letters that I received, and they make me feel so many good things. Why I don't understand two things: why you never signed them, the first one, and the second one, why you never put your address so that I could write you back. And I was so, I'm feeling the feeling right now. I was so amazed. Who is that man? I'm just, seeing him for the very first time. And he's speaking things that nobody knows. Nobody in my family knew that I used to write him letters and cards, and nobody knew that I was in contact with him for the last 5 years. And I never signed my name. And he knew that it was me. So I couldn't speak, literally. I couldn't speak. I was speechless. And, I began to cry. And he asked the ladies that were beside him to give me roses. And he gave me a bunch of roses and told me that he couldn't give me one rose because I was the grandson of Carmen, my grandmother that has already passed away at that time. And then he asked me to visit him in Uberaba to see the works that he was doing in the Grupo Espírita da Prece, the Spiritist group of prayer. And you don't have to imagine that 15 days later, I was in a bus to Uberaba to meet Chico in Uberaba and to see for the first time his works there. So this was an amazing feeling, something that I was longing to. So I was hoping to meet, and it was a sense. I felt like a sense of belonging for the first very time, and that was it. From that moment on, I felt that my life had a meaning and that I found what I was looking for.
Amazing, amazing, beautiful story, beautiful story. We could we could end the program here. Amazing. So at the end of the day, you don't actually have words to describe what it felt when you guys met for the first time. This is very precious, very beautiful, a life-changing opportunity, a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
Yes. And in a second moment, what was it like to meet Chico? What was he like as a friend? What was it like sharing the ordinary life with him?
Well, I was not so close to him because I was going like everybody else, going to Uberaba, and we went to long queues to see him, to embrace him at his works at the Grupo Espírita da Prece. But I was never alone. I would travel with relatives of mine that were very close friends with Chico. And because of that reason, he would always invite us to lunch, to have lunch with him in his home, and otherwise to have a dinner with him or to talk with him in his own home. And I remember that the first feelings for me was a very strange feeling, that it was something, because before I get to see him, I could feel all my organs, my physical organs, trembling, internally. And this was a kind of anxiety that I could not definitely control. I couldn't control it. And it was the anxiety to see that man. And I remember the first times, at the very moment that Chico arrived through a door, or entering the living room or wherever, all that anxiety disappeared, like in a magical way. I can't explain it. It all went away, disappeared. And it was a profound sense of inner peace, of inner love. And I could feel the love of that man. So I was plentiful of joy, plentiful of love in those very special moments. And after that, of course, we got to be very close friends. Chico was a person that loved to talk. He would love to, tell us about his story, his life stories, the spiritist stories, the mediumship stories, all the success or even the most difficult times that he endured. And he would talk to us. And at that time, I felt different. I felt that I was attending a spiritual university. It was kind of, I was a pupil and there was the master. And I just had to listen to him. I couldn't speak. I couldn't ask too many questions. I didn't feel that like it to ask. I was not a person like, asking so many questions. And because I saw also that Chico would not like that kind of person, the ones that are talking too much or asking too much things. And I think he liked it that I was there to listen, and we were there to talk. And after a while, this became, more oftenly happening. And I used to go there once a month. Then I was there twice a month. And after a while, in 1984, I got to marry Eliana da Cunha Borges, whose brother lived with Chico Xavier in his home in Uberaba. His name is Vivaldo da Cunha Borges. He already passed away a couple of years ago. And Vivaldo was the one that we're doing since he started living with Chico Xavier in Uberaba since 1968. And from 1975 on, he was the guy that prepared all the books that Chico Xavier psychographed. So everything, he was the man that coordinate all the work of editor preparation. And because of that, and I was married to his sister, we start to be guests at Chico Xavier home from 1984 on. And after that, a very different relationship began, because it was a familiar relationship. So we had, and Chico Xavier became someone of my own family. And although I still watch him and see him like a master of the light, and at the same time, he was so humble. He was just a simple man. He was not, in a position to stand in a higher ground. Never. He was just Chico, humbly Chico, and a friend, a family member, and I started to feel like uh, I was also able to feel that I could be myself in front of him, beside him. I could be what I am with all, the doubts and all the questions, the inner questions that I had. And at the same time, he could be himself. And this was very special because I could see the humanity in Chico Xavier. I could see his sufferings and the things that he could not speak out, in public, the things that made him suffer, made him cry. And from that time on, I shared very, very profound and special moments with him. And the main characteristics of his personality was to be simple and humble as a common person, a simple person.
That's very nice. So, you guys were always living with a person that you knew were not simple and common, but feeling that you guys were actually sharing life with a common person, a humble, kind man that was always there with you guys, sharing ordinary life. That's very impressive. That's very nice. And it's nice to know that this relationship was full of conversations, always talking, always sharing things. This is very nice. You spent a lot of time with Chico on work days. How did he receive in the spiritist centers the sufferers who looked for him?
Well, Chico was a very open person and no prejudice at all times. He would embrace everyone from different backgrounds, from different religions, from different cultures, people from all kinds of ages, children, youth, mature persons, old persons, women, men, gays, everyone from all over the Brazilian states and from all over the world. And they were there, and Chico was a very a person of fraternity. I always note that he would not never ask what religion the person is from, what background he was from, and he was very respectful of other people or the person's religions and beliefs. And that was very, very impressive. He would, if you would like to see Chico Xavier happy, it was his happiest moments were just the ones where he was in the middle of the people, lots of people, hundreds of people, and he was happy at that time, you know, talking to everyone, to the children, to the old ages, and uh, especially the poor ones, the ones in need, the ones that were suffering. He would embrace them and always had uh, a word of blessing, a word of faith, a word of asking the protection of God, always talking about Jesus, our dear Lord. So, and I could see in the eyes of all those people, I mean, hundreds of people, not only in the Spirit Center, but also in his home. It was common that on Saturday lunch, sorry, yeah, Saturday lunch, he would open his door, his home door, for around 50 to 60 people to have lunch with him, and people from other places. And at that time, that was the first time that we could see Chico in the weekend receiving persons that he did not knew, or persons that were coming from other cities, other states, and even other countries. And that was very good to see, because the conversation was very interesting. Chico was always with a very uh, happy smile, and talking and telling us very good, very interesting and good stories about his life, about the persons that he met during his life. And I could see also the happiness in those people's eyes. And after that, we went at Saturday night, to the distribution of goods, food, medicines, and necessities to the ones in need, the more poor people in the outskirts of Uberaba, and on the suburbs of Uberaba. And at that time also, Chico was the same. I mean, he would receive all those, uh, the little ones, the ones that really didn't have anything in his life, in this life, very poor, miserable ones, and he would receive them with the same kindness, the same love, and the same respect that he received the ones that had, fame and glory, politicians, or the singers, uh, all kinds of artists that also came to see him. And Chico would receive them as in the same way, not a bit of a difference. Everyone was important for Chico Xavier. And after that was in the afternoon, around 2:30, would last 1.5 hours. And then at 4:30, we would go to the Spirit Center, Grupo Espírita da Fé, Grupo Espírita da Prece, Spirit Center of the Prayer. And then he would receive in this moment a little less people, around 20 families. And those families were the ones that lost someone, special ones, sons, daughters, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers that had passed away, and the family were there in great pain, in great suffering. And Chico would receive them many times. He put me beside him, and I remember he had a kind of prancheta. I don't know how to say it in English, and a place to write. And he just wrote the name of the relative that passed away, nothing more. And it was special because at those times, around 5 p.m., I think it was the starting process of the psychography, of the contact with the discarnate beings, because Chico asked the name of the relative that passed away, and then we could see in his eyes and also in his face the expressions that he would feel differently. He would contact at that time the situation of that death. And I could testimony many times that in this very moment he began to console those families, because he would say, no, but he was received by his grandmother or his grandfather, and he would say the names and everything, the situation of the death. Oh, the accident was because of that and that. They're telling me this and that. And the families began to be in more peace at that time on. And this was not for long. It was only 20 families. But one thing I can say to you, those 20 families that Chico consoled in talking to them around 5 p.m., most of them did not receive after that in the Spiritist Center the written message of their beloved ones that passed away. And it was not uncommon that most of the messages were not from their relatives, was from people that was just arriving at that moment at the Grupo Espírita da Prece at that night. And I could see many cases like that, buses that were just stopping by the Spiritist Center, came from Porto Alegre, came from Goiânia, came from Salvador, came from Rio, from São Paulo, from faraway places. And those people that were just arriving at the Spirit Center after 8 p.m., most of the time, those people were the ones that received those consoling letters. And the reunion at that time were very, very profound. I can say that in more than 20 years that I saw that frequently, it was the most important demonstration that life goes on, that there is life beyond, And there is no doubt, even a slightest doubt in my mind, in my spirit, that we survive death, and that there is certainly life after death, because I saw that years, month after month, year after year. In each reunion of that Friday night and Saturday night, I could see myself, Chico Xavier, twice a week, receiving in each night around 10 consoling letters from the death to their beloved ones here on earth. And each of those letters maybe had 150, 130 pages of details, of information, nicknames, what the dead one just spoke and talked to their mother or father hours before their decease. So many details. And I could see the families, they were, immersed in joy, although they cried a lot. And of course, all of us cried a lot. We cried along, we didn't know why we're crying, because the emotion of those meetings, of those letters, and the emotion that we saw those family members having right there in front of Chico Xavier. Because one detail is important. Chico himself, he was the only one to read the letters, the psychographic letters. He received the letters. The process of receiving would last from 8 p.m. until 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning sometimes. So hours and hours of handwriting, of automatic writing or psychographing, hours and hours. And after that, he would, just recompose his face, maybe a cup of tea or a cup of water. And after that, he himself would read the letter. He would call the family, and the family would have a kind of shock. Oh my goodness, this is for me. Oh, how important this is for us. And they would approach Chico right there beside him, and they would listen Chico reading the letters. And this was a very magical moment. We could see the reality of life after death just in front of our eyes. And the emotion of those family that once again were in real contact with their beloved ones that had passed away. And those moments are, forever in our minds and hearts and souls for thousands of years from now on, because this was a scientific proof of life beyond death. No doubt about it. And after Chico Xavier complete the reading, the reunion would have a prayer, and then after that he would embrace everyone that could go to a queue to kiss him, to embrace him, to hug him, or to have him autograph one of his books or other books. And those times around 2 hours more of service, from 3 in the morning to 5, or from 2 to 4 in the morning, or even from 4 in the morning to 6 in the morning. That was also very special time, because while Chico was hugging everyone and we were there sitting in the table, that was very special, because at that time he was so happy, and happiness was present, and Chico was full of joy, and he would talk and tell us stories of the beyond, stories of his mediumship, what he saw, what he didn't see, and everything, stories of life. And he always had a very good humor. Chico was very good in telling stories and telling uh, good stories for us, and most of us were also in a moment of joy and happiness.
Amazing. So we see that at the end of the day, Chico was able to receive all those sufferers with more than open arms. But especially when it comes to transcending matter with an open soul, that's very, very special. And it's nice to see you talking about that, because it's actually it wasn't possible to accompany him, right, when it comes to the amount of work and admitting that we're human.
You said it right. It wasn't. I was at my youth at that time. I got to know Chico when I was 19 years old, and most of my 20s and 30s, I got to live with him and to see him working. And the truth of the matter is that we could stand no more than five or 4 days beside Chico, because the man was a spiritual workaholic, you know. He would not sleep. Once he told me that he just slept from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., no more than that. And one time, at that time, I would slept 8 hours at night, you know, very good dream. But one time Chico told me, Geraldinho, we have to conquer time from our sleep to work here on earth, to make our time here worthwhile. So that was a very good lesson that I heard from Chico. And me and my relatives, me and Nona, a very good friend of ours and a very good friend of Chico. She is still incarnated here in Belo Horizonte, around her 90s. And me and my wife at that time, Eliana, we would go around Thursday night to Uberaba. And I knew at that time that we were going to face hours and hours and hours of work. We could not sleep, we could not eat, we could not have time, you know, spare time, or no. It was just work and talking and everything. And but in one hand, it was, like I said, a university of the spirit, or a spiritual university that we were attending on. And so we could not spare those minutes with foolish things, with nonsense thoughts and preoccupations. We have to turn out our connection with our problems, with our family members, with our work responsibilities or professional responsibilities, because we were there to work with Chico Xavier, to give him in one way or another a hand in his beautiful work. And we could stand no more than from Thursday night until Monday morning. No more than that, because Monday morning we were exhausted, completely exhausted. But Chico was, a very, he was very, very.
He was being fed with fluids from spirits that we have no relationship with. His relationships in the spiritual, yes, exactly. His relationships in the spiritual.
For him, it was nothing. For us, it was
everything.
exhausting work.
Yes. We're actually now running out of time, but I still have a couple of questions that I don't want to miss here. So, many people, and we know that, came to Chico when they had lost something that was irreparable. And a great example that we were talking about was the amount of mothers that were always looking for him when they lost their children. What do you think was in him that could feel such great pains?
I think with him was the presence of Jesus himself. That is, I have no doubt of that. Because, and I'm telling this for the very first time. I never spoke with this, about this. But many times at the work, in the Grupo Espírita da Prece, the Spiritist group of prayer, or in the distribution of goods to the poor at the Vila do Pássaro Preto, I would look at Chico Xavier and I would ask myself if I was not in the very presence of Jesus Christ our Lord. And this was a very, very profound moment that I fixed my eyes on his eyes. And I knew that he was understanding was what I was thinking about, because he just smiled back at me. And I understood that I was in the presence of Jesus Christ's messenger, the consoler messenger, not to us, but the consoler apostle to the whole humanity, that one day will understand that.
Amazing. Yes, I do believe that while Chico was putting his hand over those sufferers, hugging them, embracing with his matter body and his spiritual body, we do know that Jesus Christ was always there, providing with things that we can imagine. That's very, very profound.
I'm sure that Jesus Christ, that our beloved Mary, and they're
Yes.
acting and doing marvelous things through Chico Xavier.
Yes. We were talking in the To Know Spiritism program a couple of days ago about this relationship with Mother Mary, all the times that he provided speeches and advices that were actually coming from her. This is very nice. This is
Yeah,
very nice, very special.
and I can say that because in my very home, my mother was not spiritist. My father was a Catholic that didn't care to go to church, so that me and my four sisters, we didn't have any kind of instructions on religion. And since I did not have a, a, a idea what about what was Jesus Christ. Not after, until I met Chico Xavier. Chico Xavier was the one that gave me the knowledge, the love, the respect, the reverence towards Jesus Christ, our Lord. And I could feel that Chico was always talking about him and about the Lady Mary with such a proximity feeling that I could understand that those figures of Christianity, they were not in faraway places, that they were there and they are here with us and they embrace us, our Lord Jesus, our Master. And Chico Xavier was the one that taught me that.
Beautiful. A very personal question that we have here. Um, can you describe a day at work at the Spiritist Center when some of Chico's attitudes left you very, very touched?
Well, so many times, but there was a time, a very special date reunion in Uberaba that usually we went to the Spirits Center together in the car, and Chico would we would enter through the back door, uh, and first Chico would work for 1 hour receiving the uh, I don't know how the prescriptions of homeopathic uh, uh, to the people during 1 hour, mostly signed by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, Dr. André Luiz, the spirit of Sheila. And this was a work that he would do alone with very few people from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And after that, at 8 p.m., he would go to the public meeting space and he would put me and Eliana very close to him, close to Carlos Bacelli and his wife also. Uh, and in one occasion, I was very, moved because for the first time, he ordered that me and Eliana would stay in uh, the opposite uh, place in the table regarding to his position. So it was a far away. I was used to be more close, and at that time was very different. And I was wondering why. And as soon as the reunion started, I started to cry like a crazy man, I I had lots of tears, but I knew that those tears were not from me, because I was not suffering. I did not have anything in my life that I was worried about or I was suffering about. So I was in peace, but I could not stop to cry. And when I looked at my side, Eliana also was, in tears. And I thought to myself, what is going on? Oh my goodness. I was embarrassed because all the people were looking at us. And even, I remember even Baselli uh, look at me and talk to me. Oh, maybe someone you know, Chico was psychographing at that time. And we cried our, our tears out all for more than 1 hour. And suddenly it stopped and stopped the crying. And I was myself again. And Eliana was herself again. And then Chico stopped the psychograph and he took out his glasses, looked at me, and make this gesture that in Brazil it's everything is okay. In the United States it's like that. So and I understood that, okay, everything is okay, but I want to know the explanation for this, because I don't see one bit of a reason for that cry out. And then when we got back to the home, I asked Chico, please explain to me what was going on, because I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it. And I and Eliana, we both cried out all our tears, and we didn't understand why. And then he told me that the guy that wrote through him was a spirit that unfortunately had committed suicide. He was from the city of Curitiba. He was around his late 20s and early 30s. He was engaged, and he was owner of a drugstore, a pharmacy in Curitiba. And his business were not uh, uh, in a well position, and he was going to fail, to bankrupt, and he could not face his dad and his fiancée, so that he locked himself at the pharmacy in a Friday night, and he took the medicines that gave him a sudden death. And he knew that the pharmacy only would open up in Monday morning, so that he knew he was going to die. And he programmed that in a cold way. And then Chico Xavier told me that he wrote everything through Chico Xavier at that night. And he asked his parents that were there, present there, that to drop the justice procedures, the complaints against his fiancée, because they were accusing his fiancée of homicide. And he was there to tell that she was not the responsible for his death, that he was the only responsible for his own suicide. And so that he asked his father and mother to drop the case and ask them for forgiveness. And then Chico told me that the situation of this spirit in the afterlife was so bad that Chico Xavier himself, that at that time were in a delicate health situation in his heart, he could not have the direct contact with that spirit. And because of that, the spirit of Emmanuel thought and decided that me and Eliana, my wife, would be better to put aside in the opposite place regarding Chico Xavier's position. And he would situate the spirit, the suicidal spirit, between me and Eliana, so that we could be able to receive all the sufferings, all the anguish of that spirit, and and Emmanuel would see his mind, his story in his conscience, and Emmanuel transmitted to Chico Xavier, and Chico Xavier wrote the message. So it was a different kind of mediumship that involved many persons, many situations, and Chico Xavier could not receive this spirit directly, because he told me that if he approached Chico at that time, Chico Xavier could pass away.
Very interesting. In the book Memoirs of a Suicide, we see a case like that where a suicidal spirit needs human fluids, and the amount of fluids it would require a healthy and young person. And maybe if she could had tried to give those fluids, it would end up worse in a worse position. Thank the Lord, you guys had this organization and this mentoring from Emmanuel. That's very nice. Beautiful
Yeah.
story.
And then he concluded to me and Eliana that mediumship has many faces that we will in the future understand, that we do not understand everything about mediumship yet.
Beautiful, beautiful, amazing. So, since our time got to the end, I'm gonna jump to the last question here. And since you guys were such great friends and you saw Chico and you received so many advices and you could hear him very closely, I wanted us to finish here with you bringing us a message that you think Chico could pass to all of us to start this new year.
Well, I just wish everyone that are listening to us have a very wonderful new year, a very special 2022. After all kinds of troubles and sufferings we are facing from the last 2 years to now, it's time for hope. It's time for joy. It's time to get together again and to embrace life. We had a unique opportunity to do a inner trip in our thoughts, in our souls, regarding spirituality, regarding the meaning of life, regarding the feeling and questions why we are here. What are we doing here on earth? Who are the ones that live with us, our relatives, our friends, our fellow citizens and fellow workers? And what kind of tasks we could perform to give our own touch, constructing a better world. And there is no different world than the one that Chico Xavier used to say to us every time he was asked about, that there is no love greater than the love of Jesus to us. That is the greater love that we could know of, because it represents the love that God, our Creator, has to us. And the second love, the second greatest love, is the love of our mothers, the maternity love. And that we must respect those two great loves. The love of Jesus in the name of God to us, that we must do everything to understand, to feel, and also try to love as He loved us. It's no ordinary love. It's the love of Jesus. And so that we have to honor this love. And one way, the first way that we have to honor this love is the love that we have towards our mothers, and to respect them, to love them back, to give grace for the life we have because of our mothers and also our fathers, and to be grateful for them, to bless them if they have already passed away or if they are here amongst us. So let's love one another, because after those two most important loves, we could love one another like we love ourselves. That's the message that I think Chico Xavier would say to all of you. And because of that, I'm feeling it and wishing it, that you all will have a very special, a very blessed New Year of 2022. And God help us all.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And
Thank you, João
I
Pedro.
think I do think that the word for 2022 is love. And we must remember Emmanuel telling us in the book Life and Thought that love is above all things serving those in need. That's very important.
Very
We
important.
are running out of time here. So I want to thank you one more time. Thank you.
Thanks for having
You're
me.
you're so kind and telling us those stories, touching the life of Chico Xavier with such gentle hands, always with this amount of love. This is very, very special, and we feel very, very grateful to have you. I feel very grateful for having you as a friend, having you in my life. We're very, very grateful.
You're very
Thank,
kind, my friend. Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank everybody to that
And
are
kisses to
here.
everyone. Happy New Year,
Yes,
Vanessa.
that yes, our beloved Vanessa that's here with us. Thank you guys that are watching us here till now.
And God
Thank you, thank
bless
you, thank
Internet
you.
Radio.
Yes, God bless Kardec Radio. We do wish that 2022 will be a year of much, much work for this radio, spreading the good news and remembering such great characters like Chico Xavier that taught us so much about Jesus, this amount of love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Bye bye.
Bye bye.